A teacher becomes concerned when a little girl from an impoverished family declines to leave school and accompany her father home. She is horrified to learn the cause and calls the police for assistance. Welcome to USA Stories channel. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell button to receive all new updates. Now let's go to the story. Kitty was nervous because she was the new girl in the class on her first day of school. She loathed new circumstances like this and didn't like meeting new people or doing activities that were out of her comfort zone. Even though she was just 7, the whole situation worried her greatly. Nevertheless, Miss Evans, her instructor, called her up front and gave a brief introduction to each student. Kitty continued to be incredibly shy and uneasy, even though everyone appeared to be nice and delighted to see her. When the other kids started asking her where she was from and why she was there, it just became worse. You see, Miss Evans was well aware of Kitty's motivation for attending this new school, having seen her transfer documents. Reading what was written on the sheets of paper had shattered her heart, and she knew that if she was feeling down and uneasy, Kitty must be going through a million times worse. Miss Evans intervened, shifting the topic and focusing the kids' attention on their upcoming lesson. Kitty stayed silent and out of sight for the remainder of the day, attending none of the classes or interacting with anyone. She stayed to herself, writing only what she had to in her book. Observing Kitty's dejected appearance, Miss Evans went over to kneel beside her. Seeing Kitty's horrified expression, Miss Evans reassured the young girl in a calm manner that she was available should she ever need to chat. Kitty thanked her, giving her a pathetic little half-smile. Miss Evans and Kitty waited outside for her father to arrive at the end of the day. After a while, a Muslim man identified himself as Steve and started to approach them. He was the father of Kitty. He urged Kitty to go wait in the truck that was parked nearby after Miss Evans shook his hand. Following the girl's departure, Steve confided in Miss Evans that he and his daughter had experienced an unusual and challenging few months. Miss Evans grinned miserably, as she already knew the whole tale. You see, just a few months ago, Steve's wife, Kitty's mother, had passed away quite unexpectedly. Everyone had been completely taken aback by it, but poor little Kitty was the most affected. She was plainly inconsolable and terribly missed her mother. Steve was reassured by Miss Evans that she recognized Kitty was going through a difficult and painful period and that she would do everything in her power to help her settle in. Steve departed after thanking her. Miss Evans tried her hardest over the next few weeks to assist Kitty in getting used to her new life at school. She would make an effort to play games with her or strike up interesting conversations, but Kitty was never interested. Similarly, when out at the playground, the other children would try to play with her, but Kitty preferred to sit alone and keep to herself. While all of this was distressing enough, Miss Evans was also beginning to notice another thing about the poor little child. Kitty had begun to wear filthy clothes to school, which worried Miss Evans. Despite her calm demeanor and solitude, she consistently wore elegant clothing. But more often than not, she would show up to school wearing ragged, discolored clothes that smelled like damp dirt. Miss Evans attempted to stop the harsh comments and attention that even the other kids were giving her before they became entrenched. She would never tolerate bullying in her school, especially when it involved a child as hungry and impoverished as Kitty. It all came to a head one day. Kitty was still seated in her chair when Miss Evans observed her as the class was dismissing for the day. Kitty sobbed and explained that she needed assistance when someone asked her why she wasn't leaving. Miss Evans, perplexed and a little alarmed, attempted to comfort her and comprehend the situation. Before Miss Evans could fully understand what Kitty was saying, she whispered through her tears that she didn't want to drop out of school and go with her dad. Kitty even inquired about moving in with Miss Evans. Yes, that was a pretty depressing scene. The youngster hinted that she didn't like staying there and missed her mother and her previous life when Miss Evans questioned her about why she didn't want to go home. She yearned for the previous state of affairs. Suddenly, her dad, Steve, was standing at the doorway of the classroom. Kitty pulled away, sobbing once more. Her father came over to her and gave her a strong hug, telling her that although he was doing everything in his power to be a good father and make her happy, she was also having a hard time with life. With tears in her eyes, Miss Evans saw the scene. After a while, Steve extended his hand, and Kitty cautiously accepted it before they departed. But Miss Evans called Steve back as they were going down the hallway. While her father and teacher conversed, Kitty stood in the doorway. Steve explained that the reason Kitty's clothing was so filthy and odorous was because he was experiencing plumbing issues at home. Kitty also treasured the clothes, which her mother had purchased for her before she passed away. Miss Evans nodded slowly as Steve informed her that he appreciated her looking out for him and his daughter. Miss Evans was equally disturbed and perplexed after he turned and left. Kitty never wore filthy clothes again after that, and her beauty much improved. She was frequently late to school and appeared quite pale and exhausted when she did arrive, which was a different problem. She even dozed off in a few of the lectures and had dark circles under her eyes. Miss Evans inquired about Steve's well-being over the phone. He claimed that because he frequently worked late, he would not arrive home until it was quite late to assist Kitty with her homework, and that even he was having difficulty with it. Miss Evans promised to provide the child some numbers to send to Steve and advised Kitty to seek a tutor. After expressing his gratitude, Steve hung up the phone. However, Miss Evans couldn't help but conduct some research that evening. She had to find out what was going on, if nothing else, because it was obvious that something weird was happening. Miss Evans trailed behind Kitty and Steve as they departed the school. She trailed along far behind them to see where they were headed, but she was taken aback when she learned. A few kilometers later, Steve and Kitty entered a parking area and approached a truck. That is, the same truck that Steve had been operating a few months prior. Steve waited on the rear of the truck while Kitty crawled into the back and covered the windows. A few minutes later, Kitty exited the truck with clothes that were different from what she had on when she entered. As they brought the worn-out clothing to a neighboring laundry for cleaning, Miss Evans's mouth fell open. Miss Evans crept around to the truck and peered through the window, discovering that Kitty and her father had been residing there. It held other personal belongings in addition to clothes. Even though Miss Evans felt forced to notify the police, the revelation made a great deal of sense to her. While the police officers were pulling up, Steve and Kitty were making their way back to the truck. To their surprise, Miss Evans was also standing there. But Steve eventually revealed the truth rather than attempting to fabricate an explanation. Steve revealed to Miss Evans and the police that he had lost his job some months prior and that he had been unable to focus since his wife had passed away. Furthermore, he had hurt himself. In addition, he was not used to caring for Kitty on his own and had to handle everything. Steve's life was really difficult, and although he had been making every effort, he was unable to purchase a property since he had no work. He then moved into the truck with Kitty. Miss Evans suddenly realized that everything made sense now. The policeman told Kitty that her father wouldn't be taken into custody, as she was afraid he would be. He intended to transport them to a safe haven where they could eat healthily, shower, and sleep in comfort. Steve received treatment for his wounds in the shelter, and before long, he was returning to his job. The good news, however, didn't stop there. To assist in raising money for the underprivileged girl who was struggling, Kitty's school organized a special fundraiser. They managed to gather enough cash to buy Steve and Kitty a small apartment, which they then furnished with generous contributions from the neighborhood. At last, they had a contented house and the much-needed fresh start. Kitty never missed a deadline after that, and she began to emerge from her shell and return to the joyful child she had once been. She even rose to the top of the class and was awarded a special scholarship for college. Miss Evans was incredibly proud of her. It is now up to you. What were your thoughts on this amazing tale? If you had known where Steve and Kitty were heading, would you have followed them? In what way could you have assisted them? Please remember to subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos. If you enjoyed the tale, the next video that plays on your screen will probably move you too.